is a business owner, they might be a lawyer, they might be a doctor. How can we help change that image? So,
Good evening, everybody. Miss Bre here. Um, I feel like the presence in media to show your average, everyday working person unwinding, not with wine, but with something else. And maybe it's popcorn, maybe it's an edible, maybe it's CBD oil, maybe it's something else other than like liquor. If we, from a media standpoint, show desensitize it a little bit more. Like you see it on some shows, but if they desensitized it and made it a part of normalcy, which it is, and just take the shade over everyone's eyes, that would be a great help to me because it's all subconsciously been planted in our heads that it's wrong, and we just have to undo that.
Hey guys, it's Daniel with Halcyon Organics. Thank y'all for having me. You know, as much fun as it is to bash the media and blame them for all these problems, you know, it's their job. So I think that we have to put the responsibility is upon us to not glorify the stereotype that they want. Make them feel stupid. Make them feel like assholes for doing an archaic depiction of us. So for me, it's like I have to have a haircut like I'm Nathan Deal's accountant, and I shave, and so like people when they meet me, so I'm not like, oh yeah, man, like I can be articulate, and and then it gets the imagery of joints and bongs and pipes, and like smoking's not medical. As much fun as we want to say it is, the Surgeon General's never going to be like, yeah, smoke medical smoking. It's so a part of. I think we have to do it ourselves, and we have to when you're about to do that selfie of you holding 10 pounds and a bunch of cash, you'd be like, we can just revel in this art quietly, and let's put the picture of us working at a computer. That's kind of me.
all right, perfect. Ebony?
Ebony Knight, NORML Women's Alliance, and Urban Hippie. Shout out to Urban Hippie. I think the best way to change the image in the media is for us to release our own images, to release our own media, for us to tell our stories, to come out of the closet. Now, while everyone doesn't want to go to the Capitol and fire up, in solidarity, or everyone doesn't even want to be on the front page and saying, I smoke weed. You can do your part, to show that, okay, this is what I do. I'm an accountant and I use cannabis. I'm a teacher and I use cannabis. And I know that there's a lot of stigma because of the propaganda that has been released in this country for so many years. But so you don't want to lose your job. You're a teacher, you smoke. However, there is a way that you can plant a seed, that you can speak about medical things and teach so that we can begin to change that image.
And I'm glad you mentioned taking more ownership of media. One of the main reasons I want to have Gindi on is because of marijuana mania. Like if you ever watch the web series, it's very prominent on YouTube. One thing they make a preference of is showing people in the industry actually at their job. And I think that's another part of normalizing this image that when you start showing people actually as trimmers, actually as growers, actually in dispensaries, it actually does a leap for that. So I do appreciate you saying that. And I would like for you to speak a little bit about marijuana mania and the importance of that show as far as helping change the image of what it looks like.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. I'm Gindi. So basically the purpose of Marijuana Mania is brought to you by my friends at Northbound Films out in San Francisco. Basically they kind of dig deep and profile actual farmers and stuff like that, and they actually give you the education behind what marijuana is, how it stems, and the effects and stuff like that, which I think is very important to actually show the education side of it instead of always rapping about it or gloating about, you having access to this much marijuana or whatever. Instead use your resources and kind of, just educate your users and your supporters.
One thing I feel also the media often misses is we do speak about it from a medical aspect, but we don't really go that deep into it. I guess because maybe it's still so foreign in so many other states. How can we start getting that conversation involved where it's not so much about your recreational, but how they can actually help you, how we can actually help with some diseases that people go through, some ailments that people go through. I'd like for you to see if you can.
Give me the question again.
Yeah, I was speaking because I feel like one thing we don't see a lot of, but we do hear the conversation, but it doesn't get that deep, was the medical aspects of marijuana. We often hear about the recreation. You see that's glorified in almost every TV show where you'll see marijuana used. So I want to speak on that. How can we get that conversation more involved in the media? Would it have to be us taking control of it ourselves?
You know, that's a tough question because how do you can again? I think we have to spin everything. Well, I don't say spin, but pivot to it. When I did an interview with Brenda Wood or somebody a year or so ago, and they go, yeah, well, you know, medical's cool, but we all know what it really is. It's just the leapfrog to recreational because they want to get to that. That's the juicy thing, the slippery slope of kids getting high in the schoolyard, and this is just a big charade. Like ask Charlie in a wheelchair. They'll tell you he does it just for rec, you know. So I think a lot of us when they try to get you with it, you got to spin it on them and be like, look, I think recreationally using a drug is drug abuse. By definition, I'm talking about medical. And leave it off before you get to like, but I think that marijuana should be treated like Tylenol, where if you need it, you go buy it. But it's still medicine. Other than that, I think it's just up to us to push the stories on the sick kids, or not even sick kids. How about the sick grown-ups? You know, that have jobs and kids that they got to take care of, like Crohn's people, and cannabis helps them like live a normal life. So pivot it, I think.
Just to kind of piggyback off that, I used to live in Orlando, and this was just in like 2014. And it was a time where they were trying to petition to get, medical marijuana in their state. And it was, like I said, they were doing petitions, but they didn't really have any real backing. But Morgan and Morgan, which is super, he's a super big attorney in the state. And his father actually ended up using marijuana to help medicate with cancer. So just seeing how that obviously they pushed the story. Morgan and Morgan really advocated for the use, and they got some results from it.
From my experience, I used to think the same way. Like all weed is medical. I haven't smoked any marijuana that wasn't medical. Like it always helped me. It was medicinal. So, but it kind of changed my perspective as I traveled the country and spoke with actual patients who would not be able to speak a clear sentence without using cannabis. Actually speaking with children who are using cannabis legally and saying, well, if we can get those images out there, like let's get the patients on the front line because the patients really do need it. That changed my whole perspective. Like there are people who cannot speak, who cannot operate without cannabis. So we can get their stories in front of our politicians, get the children who are using it and their seizures have been reduced by 97%. Get them out there.
Hi guys. Okay, so this is very, very personal for me, and this is what won me over because I was a person, even though I was a user, I didn't step into the production side of it until this happened. I have a beagle, his name is Snoopy, he's 12 years old. He started having seizures when he was around 3. Took him to the doctor, thousands and thousands of dollars later after the medication they gave him. I had to take him back to the vet every 6 months to test for liver failure. And on top of him going from 3 to 5 seizures a month, he would still have the occasional one random seizure. And I'm like, oh, it's not worth it. So upon doing research on the drug, I was like, oh, this is just a depressant. I know a depressant that doesn't have that many side effects. I looked up a cannabis doggy treat, and I made him treats. And it's been a year and a half, and he hasn't had a seizure. He still doesn't have seizures. So that just made me a believer. It's like, oh, thousands of dollars later, I learned like the power of it. Like, so you can definitely use your pets. Someone who has a dog that has seizures.
That's good to know that if your pets are facing any kind of issues, that we could actually get you some pet edibles. All right, that's great. Well, and another important thing I feel like that we need to start establishing in the cannabis industry as this industry starts growing is a more diverse ownership, whether that be black, white, definitely female, and just definitely more inclusive as far as the voice. How can we start making sure that we start seeing those inclusions in this industry, and we're not looking 5 years down the road and still having this conversation?
I would say start with spreading knowledge, even just in business. business, not even just the cannabis industry, but in business, a lot of us don't step out because we don't have the knowledge or we feel like we don't have the backing. But if we come together, you bring your $2, I bring my $2, you bring $3, you bring five, put five on it, like we can come together and build like a grow op or a co-op. That's my answer.
Definitely, I have to definitely agree with that. I think we all just need to come together and just let out our knowledge or whatever and share it with the media.
Now, with the Women's Alliance for NORML, what do you do with that, and how is that helping as far as bringing more women involved?
Well, the NORML Women's Alliance started about, I would say, 7 years ago. I recently took on the task of a regional director, so I'm going to be working with all of the East Coast and the South. And although it's called the NORML Women's Alliance, we have a lot of men who participate. Because when women get together, we have a voice that shit happens. And I think that's why a lot of times, females like, oh, I don't fool with her, or I don't fool with women. But when we come together and put our minds together, things change, our communities change. When you've never gotten a woman mad, things are going to change. So we work with women in different states according to your state. So I work a lot with Philadelphia. Philadelphia is like a weed garden. We're not really fighting for the right to smoke weed. We're kind of just building industries and women grow and things like that. Here in Atlanta, we're still fighting for the freedom to come out on the streets and smell like weed, so they tell me. So they tell me I need to put on spray. So that's what we do. We work together, kind of build an alliance across the states and then nationally.
It's important to have organizations like NORMLs and organizations like that in Georgia Care as well that are trying their hardest to dispel some of those images. Now in Georgia, we're having a struggle as far as trying to get more access for patients, trying to get more dispensaries, just trying to get more and more even information out there. How close do you feel like we are in Georgia to maybe seeing something pass? And if not, what all can we do? Like as far as even in this room, how can we have a call to action where we can actually start making a conversation about that?
To be honest, I kind of feel like I'm just really new to the industry here, so I feel like it's still, at its growing stages. I think you're doing an amazing job at documenting what we do have here, and I think if we keep that going, then we got something good.
I say we send the good old boys home. Send Governor Deal and the rest of them home because that's how we're going to move Georgia forward. However, I would like to say that when I came in 2012, my friend Vincent and we were like the only two black people in Peachtree NORML. And even trying to get people to sign up on our mailing list so that we could send them information, they were very hesitant to do so. But now when I come back and I look in the room, I'm like, yes, there are people who are here who want to learn and who are saying, hey, I see the change coming. And that's what you have to do. You have to be able to see ahead and prepare for it because it is going to come. Although Georgia seems like it moves slow, Georgia moves at its own pace, and it is going to happen.
And Nathan Deal's going to go home in 2018, whether he wants to or not. But a lot of people I've seen here, I see at the Capitol and stuff, so we know it. But our local representatives, our House reps, and our state senators are extremely accessible. Call them, go down to their office, and just be like, hey, I'm going to vote, and this is an important issue to me, and you can make a change. And, tell them I support people getting access to cannabis. We shouldn't be putting people in jail for it. It's stupid. Go catch a rapist or a terrorist or something else and leave us alone. And if you are a patient or someone with Alzheimer's or cancer, use a personal story. But they're so accessible. I mean, you can go to their house. Like, they're just really, really normal people with egos. So...
So I feel like there are strength in numbers. A lot of people like to jump behind something once they feel this worthy to jump behind because there are the numbers there. Like we all in the community have to not be afraid to be the trailblazers for all the sub causes in the cannabis community.
All right, great. thinking again about Georgia, what do you feel like has been? I mean, has been a hindrance as far as us trying to get into this political reign and try to get some conversation started? Because I've been to the State House. We actually had a chance to film for the documentary down there. And one thing I noticed when I got down there, were a lot of people didn't even know what was happening with LNP. They didn't know that they were trying to deliver the petitions down there. Are there any organizations? Are there anything going on in in Atlanta, like from Normal or Georgia Care, that are calling people to action as far as come down here, make sure you get here, make sure you let your voice be known? If there are, what are some of the organizations we should be trying to pay attention to? And if not, how can we go about trying to start our own organization maybe?
Well, I know I've been to the Capitol multiple times with Peachtree Normal. So if you have not connected with Peachtree Normal, I would definitely advise that you do. They're a very active organization. They're serious about being at the Capitol, doing press conferences, actually even taking the numbers. Many of us actually walked through there and went to the governor's office to deliver paperwork. So that is one thing that is happening. I'm not sure about other organizations, but if any of you know of any, I'm always willing to be here and cuss people out at the Capitol.
Yeah, their Peachtree Normal is good. Georgia Cares around, like Mehka mentioned earlier. There's a lot of parent groups for sick kids. There's a lot of patient groups. There's a lot of them are like locked groups on Facebook. But just word of mouth it and just go on Facebook and IG and everything, and you can find groups. They're there, and everyone's real cool.
I'm loving this. This is giving a lot of good answers as far as some of the questions I know people have and how to get involved and what are some of the things stopping us. One thing I do like speaking about when it comes to the image that I see is how hip hop portrays cannabis and cannabis use. Now I'm born and raised as a product of the hip hop culture, so I've literally watched a lot of trends that hip hop has jumped off. But one thing I've definitely watched is hip hop helping pop culture understand cannabis. Whether it's Snoop Dogg, whether it's Redman, there's been a lot of help through the music. But one thing you don't see these people talking about is their actual affiliations in the industry. It's a whole lot of how you should smoke, what you should smoke, and when you should smoke. How much pressure do you think we can put even on the music for them to try to change that image? And I want to present that to you, Jindy, because again, with Marijuana Mania, you have somebody like Burner who actually speaks about both. So how do you feel like we can put pressure on them, or if we can, to start getting them to speak about the industry that they know about and less about just consumption?
Kind of just like I said earlier, it's just like taking the artists like Wiz Khalifa and Currency and all those guys. Like, granted, they're great artists, great dudes, hard workers, but they kind of gloat more about, you know what I mean, their usage and, like I said, the resources of getting access to it in such quantities instead of actually educating their listeners and their supporters. I feel like they have to really, since they, with their following, they have to be like the face for us. They are representatives of our culture and stuff like that. So it's kind of their job, I feel, to change that perception. I think they should, reach out to their supporters and stuff like that and educate.
We may need to educate them.
Yeah, that was the big.
Because they know how to smoke, they got the money to smoke, that's what they know. So maybe we need some forums where we can educate them.
We also need to just go ahead again and reiterate, take control of the media, because you will constantly have contrary views on what actual cannabis use and cannabis users look like. I give the example of the show Mary Jane right now that's on MTV. If you watch the show, cannabis using cannabis dealers are really happy-go-lucky people. Like they just really don't have a lot of cares in the world. And to be honest with you, these people are businessmen. And like yourself, you're a business person. You understand the trials and everything that goes on. So it's very important for us to let people know that this is a business going on here. One thing I do want to start talking about next is how we can make sure that we are letting these people know, especially within using outlets like social media, like blogs, stuff that we have at our control. How can we start empowering ourselves to get into this and start getting involved in this industry? I know it's as simple as saying research, but what are some ways that people start, could start looking towards if they want to get involved in this industry and start learning?
I would say the first thing is just change your whole mindset. Don't think of it as weed or an illegal drug. Just go into it looking at like, I'm going to start a business. And then look at like, what do I know about? If you're good at baking, think about edibles. If you're good at marketing, think about a marketing agency. If you're worried about the laws, Think about like the picks and the shovels of the gold rush. You know, think about lights and hydroponics and bong or paraphernalia and smell-proof bags, and containers and child-proof containers and law and everything. Think it just it's a regular thing that's going to be every other regular thing that we have. And I would say just don't just imagine you're starting a business that you would start if it wasn't this, and then figure out how to incorporate your skill set to this. That'd be
That's good advice, Steve.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a newbie, me and my partner, Sonia Williams. Me and my partner, Sonia, with Sky Treats. We started on 420 because of the lack of quality edibles that we saw. And for us, it was more of a labor of love because it's like, hey, instead of us telling everyone else about it, we're both bankers. Let's put our brains together and make this happen. And it's been well received, like well received. Us, we can bake our asses off too. But yeah, like, I mean, he literally took words out of my mouth. Just put what you already do and just be creative. Just, open your third eye, be creative.
Speaking of your business, how do you work and how is it working in Atlanta and in Georgia, being that the rules for consumption, the rules for possession, they're still not clearly defined. Well, they are clearly defined. You get arrested. You know what I'm saying? How is it like trying to operate a business still in Georgia?
She gotta sell CBD.
It's scary, but from my viewpoint, I have to stand for something. And it's kind of like a catch-22. Like, yes, it can happen, and I don't direct that energy towards me. But if I'm faced with that, I just have to be prepared legally because it's not legal. However, I still have to make a stand, and I would hope my community would support me because it is medical. Some of my biggest clients, they're moms and people who just got new jobs and studying for the bar, like people from all walks of life. So it is scary. Did I answer the question? I feel like I started ranting. Okay.
And had too much of my own product, maybe. But I definitely want to ask you the same question because you operate out of a different vein. You are the one dispensary. So how is it operating in Georgia knowing that even with you here, it's still hoops and ladders for somebody to even get a prescription, to find a doctor, to even get to you? Like, what is it like working in Georgia? What are some of the stresses?
I mean, the stresses is obvious. It's like, well, is my raw materials going to show up? And when we pick them up, is everything going to be normal? And we're going to get a free night in jail that day. So the stress is like, is today going to be the day that we're going to have to spend a lot of money to not go to jail? That's pretty clear. The other side of it again is it's business, and you make it happen. And like now we've got to the point like where she's at, where like even if I was like, this is a little bit crazy, we should stop. We got 250 people with cards that are dependent on us. Like I can't just shut down because I mean somebody could die, And so you just make it work. If something gets weird, you fix it. You got to be a good problem solver, and you have to be very flexible.
I try to do events and keep it in a contained environment for me and my partner to be safe. We definitely try to make it as professional as possible so we can shed the cliches and shed the stigma that's associated with cannabis. Period, especially coming from because we're females and we're bakers. We definitely try to put a fresh spin on it so we can kind of break some of those barriers.
We know during the election we actually saw a couple more states go green. I'm from Boston, so I saw Massachusetts go, saw Florida change up. We also saw a new president come in, and we are really watching the right this second pick an administration that I feel like is going to dictate a lot about the change that we just saw from these states who just went green. So in the new administration we're going to see with the Trump administration, how do you feel like that's going to affect the positivity that we've already seen happen in the cannabis industry, or do you feel like it's going to?
I'm not thrilled about the Jeff Sessions appointment. I'm hoping that he will be one of the people that they just go after real hard, and kind of sacrificial lamb him and let some of the other questionable picks make it. However, even if we do get stuck with Sessions, I'm optimistic because Trump, if we learned anything from him this last election cycle, is he might say stupid things, but there's something going on in his head where he ends up being right a lot. Or not right, but he succeeds. And I don't. Yeah. So I don't think waging war on over half the country's businesses and their tax monies and I don't think that's the fight he wants to have. I'm hoping that this sounds so incredibly selfish and callous, but I'm hoping that Sessions is there to just go chase around illegals, and because he's also hard on that. But I don't think it's a fight that they're going to want to have because there's going to be a midterm in 2 years. If they go screw up stuff, they're going to roll them in the Senate and the House, and Trump won't get anything done if he's got a whole bunch of Democrats that he has to deal with. Well, maybe he will. I don't know. I'm confused.
You want to chime in?
Well, this is going back to your last question. I was just going to say that this is Georgia, and Georgia is full of rebels. So rebels are going to make it happen. So you find a way to make it happen. We were at a Christmas party for Peachtree Normal the other night, and people were like, "Are you selling the edibles right here?" Like I wasn't about to go in the alley and do a transaction. Like, yeah, we trapping right here. But so it was, definitely knowing where you are and just being aware of that and cognizant because I do realize that a lot of people really, 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 really are worried about their image. But the more people that we can get who just don't care, if we can get a few people who don't care about how you look or what people think about you, you can make a change.
And last night we had a chance to actually speak and film for my documentary. There was one question I didn't get a chance to ask you that I thought I'd hold for today. Where we see with media, especially urban media, say your sources, your double XLs, we are yet to see these magazines that again are part of the hip hop culture. You definitely post videos of people smoking weed. You have whole conversations with this. Have yet to speak about this industry, whether it can be highlighting Wiz, Burn, or anybody else. How do we start approaching them, or even better, like my man Reggie Osei mentioned with the Combat Jack podcast, we got to get to a point to start cultivating and creating writers so we can create this. How do we go about doing that, and how do we go about bringing that into people's faces? Because we have plenty of journalists, maybe we just need to introduce them to what's going on.
I would definitely say follow me at Ebony Knight Media. I do a lot of media, just kind of doing what we've been saying, taking back the media, writing about it. So that's what we have to do. I'm a writer, you're a writer, I'm sure there are some other writers in here. We can begin to submit these articles to these magazines and then we'll publish them because we're great writers.
As a filmmaker, and I'm coming from a commercial industry, like pretty much mostly corporate videos for Twitter and stuff like that, and I would like to switch over, and especially for our people of color and stuff like that, and with Canna brands and all that, I would like to be able to offer more commercial type of videos and little small clips, stuff like that, just to kind of get that out there. The same thing that BuzzFeed and stuff is doing. We should, be able to put that same kind of content out.
That content out, because say you Google or you're on Facebook, again, you're in the media, you're trying to actually cover the cannabis industry, you'll actually get a lot of posts taken down, and you'll get a lot of things taken down like that. How do we combat that, or how do you normally combat that in business, and how do you normally combat that in media, the censorship of cannabis online? Oh, they will. They'll kick you off if you use certain terms, especially on Facebook. If you use certain terms with cannabis and business.
I've gone through 4 credit card processors. I'm not allowed to buy anything on PayPal anymore. We got our Facebook ads pulled down. I think Twitter popped us. What we do is we just keep doing it. You know? Yeah, all they're gonna do is take it down, put up another one, and then change the wording. Don't say cannabis, say hemp. And then if they pull that down, say botanical. You just gotta keep playing word games with them, and then your audience, they know what you mean. If you just lay the innuendo thick enough, there you go. Just get creative. Don't give up.
The creators. All right, I want to take some time and let the crowd actually ask some questions or some things that's on your mind about any of the topics we spoke about, or a different topic that you would like to ask one of our panelists. So if you have a show of hands, anybody have a question that they would like to ask one of the panelists?
Thank y'all for being here tonight. Since we're talking about the perception of the user, I think one of you mentioned earlier that they've had like an 80-year head start with the propaganda and things like that. And it's been said that it takes something twice as long to unimplement as it is to implement. Do you all think it will take that long to change the perception? Or can we speed up that process?
I have an answer for that actually.
I definitely think we can speed up that process with the age that we're in, with social media. We can speed up that process, especially if we even our children. I'm a mother. I teach my children the truth about cannabis. They were actually at the New Jersey Weed Man's trial. Power to the people, to my kids. Shout out to my kids. We can definitely change the perception, and then with this next generation that's coming on, that's what I was referring to when I said it's time for the good old boys to go home. Things are going to change rapidly.
Yes, they are, and I can address
Sit
that.
two words in my mouth.
Yeah, time is doing our job. It's really our, like my grandparents' generation, most of them are dead. Baby boomers are pretty cool. I'm just, but yeah, they'll die.
I feel like this is their last good stand and their last fight. And you can't fight time, you can't fight the digital age. So everything's, becoming desensitized faster and faster and faster. And, so it's happening.
And the other thing is like, think about a kid that was born in Colorado in the last couple of years. They're gonna be like, do you remember when alcohol was illegal? You're like, yeah, you could go to jail for this much of it. So that's kind of like, there's kids being born now that don't even get it. But again, we gotta wait for them to be old.
And especially now, like you said, with the access and the social media and just the amount of, like, we have so much available, like, knowledge, you know what I mean? So we can definitely always educate ourselves on this stuff. You know what I mean? So I
And I would say don't count out, the older generation because a lot of them know the truth, and especially the Southern ones. Like your grandma knew that cannabis was an herb that she could use for something. And the older they get, and I have some older people in my family now who are, open to using cannabis as medicine. Like my dad is a Marine, my dad's an ex-pastor, my dad's a Black Panther. Shout out to my dad.
All right.
But yeah, so now he's like, even his doctors are telling him that they've had him on all the medication that they've had on. They need to start taking him off of it. Oh yeah, now he won't smoke it with me, but he tells me to leave it there. So that's progress.
Yeah.
That is progress. Any more questions? Anybody have a question? Stanley, what's up, man? Now hold on, let me not fall in front of all these people.
On camera.
Good evening.
Hey.
My name is Stanley Atkins II, and I refer to myself as the Canamedic because, in relation to what they were saying, to a lot of questions proposed tonight, I look it down and say we got to change the image of cannabis. We're already doing it. Look around the room right now. If you told someone you were going to a cannabis meeting or a cannabis panel, they would not think this room looked like this. It looks like a bunch of professionals in here to me. We want to show them that we're stoned, we're not stupid, because most of the successful millionaires all use cannabis.
Yeah.
Another point I want to make, yes, we have to have a person, yes, I'm a paramedic. So I'm a United States Navy veteran. I retired as a paramedic 2 years ago. I became ill. They ran every test you can name from endoscopies to GI to HIDA scans, didn't find out what it was. They offered me radiation. I told them no. I chose cannabis. Now, in choosing cannabis, I was forced to give up my career in public medicine. As a public service professional, you can't smoke weed. But guess what? I chose to have my entire department turn their back on me, like, oh man, you went from nominated medic of the year to a pothead. I was a pothead the entire time. Because I have an entire wall of declarations of proclamations saying how great of a medic I am. Now I am here to tell you that we are stoned, we are not stupid, because the patient that failed a few years ago, the Georgia Dome, University of Tennessee student, yes, I intubated. He had a fourth fracture. So guess what? I wasn't stupid then, was I? Because we have to teach people the medicinal aspect of cannabis. We have to teach them that NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, are tearing the lining out of everyone's stomach. Cannabis is 18 times better at reducing inflammation than any over-the-counter drug. And it's actually said with the older patients, the actual growing number of patients right now, the number one patient group is 55 and older. They're tired of going to the medicine cabinet because I've been down the Oxy road, and it's a long road, and it's a terrible road to go down. But I can look them in the eyes and I can tell them, I have a history of substance abuse. Yes, cannabis caused my sobriety. And people say, well, how can you smoke weed and be sober? I have been the most clear-minded because of cannabis. Cannabis saved my life. It's to look my son in the eye and tell him, I love you, but I may die. That took a lot. But when I chose cannabis, it renewed my sense of life and my sense of renewal to people. Like being people on stage. Because when people see me, although about 98% of my department turned their back on me, those 2%, hey man, my daughter has seizures. Hey, my wife has epilepsy. Hey, I got chronic back pain. Because I live in chronic pain. I tell them I will live strong and a little bit of pain before I ever live addicted to prescription narcotics again.
Amen.
Definitely thank you for your testimony. Thank you for your chime in. Any questions?
I want to speak on something. As a medicinal marijuana farmer, do we have any farmers in the house?
Not that I'll admit to.
I am a medicinal marijuana farmer. I grow this, about this life, I do this. And as you guys are speaking about, you vaping and doing your things and worrying about being here in Georgia, it is legal. I am actually going through a case myself. I'm a script. I have my medicinal marijuana license and I have my marijuana. I'm a patient. I can go and receive any type of medicinals I would like. Now, transporting and going to different cities and states, it is illegal. I was arrested, I was jailed, and I'm still under a federal case right now fighting for the same thing that we're all speaking about as medicine. And so I'm a perfect I have so much to speak about this because I'm so adamant, and so this is just what I do. This is what I do. I've helped heal numerous of people. Closest to me, the lady who raised me has stage 4 cancer, going through radiation, doing all of this, and in my medicinal farming, I have all of my farmer friends get together and make this pure oil for her that I was getting for her right now. She's no longer under radiation. Right now, she's not, cancer levels has dropped from the thousands to the double digits. I mean, it's totally a healing mechanism. All of my friends, their kids have seizures. One so bad to where they have seizures so much that their teeth fell out with them having a seizure. They used to have them 3 days a week, and within the time of them cutting down, it takes a long time. And in getting them on this oil, they no longer have seizures 3 times a week, maybe one, if that. And the time to recuperate afterwards is so short a time. So me as a medicinal marijuana farmer, as soon as I get free in May, I will be back to it. I will be back on it don't stop. You know what I mean? We gotta keep pushing this. And I think the main thing and what everybody keeps speaking about is education. People don't know. People don't know the difference between THC and CBD. People don't know the difference between indica and sativa. People don't know the whole, once you're a farmer, you get into the whole different aspects. And in this marijuana business, it's so many different avenues in it. You don't have to be a farmer, you don't have to be a bud tender, you don't have to, it's so many different avenues to get into it. And so there's so many different ways to make money without being hands-on in the field, you should say. But shout out to all the farmers. If anybody need any more access or whatever, I do so much different things. Aside from being a farmer, I'm an old urban grower. I put urban farms on these marijuana farms. I hire trimmers for the season. I hire drivers to drive and export. Like, it's so much different things. I do medicinal dinners, still pushing it here in Georgia. It's just so much things to do with the business. Yeah, I'm in California. I'm 4 hours north, right past Mendocino and Humboldt. And can't travel right now, but believe me, after May, we get back to it.
All right, awesome. Any more questions? Anybody have a question? Yes. Okay, she gave me that up quick. All right, we're gonna go down here.
How you doing? My name is Johnson, and I have a company as well. I have a company called the Greenhouse Effect, and it sells CBD oil to people who suffer from Crohn's disease, like they have spoken about, epilepsy, and various other ailments that people suffer from. But I had a question for the gentleman as well. Can you describe some of your troubles and hurdles that you had to go through when it came to finding a financial merchant to sell your CBD oil or your other cannabis products?
Right, PayPal, Square Cash, all those are kind of difficult when it comes to trading getting money. So you're talking about payment, like credit card processing?
We seems like it's gotten stricter in the sense of you can't say CBD, you can't even say hemp anymore. They're like, we're in the middle right now of finding like hopefully what we can call home as far as processing, and it looks like we're gonna have to use an international processor. And you still have to be, you can't show imagery, but you can be a little more aggressive with the language. I would check, we haven't picked anybody, but some of the ones I'm looking at is like GM payments and choicebiz.net, I think, but I can't remember the name. Just Google high-risk processor. You gotta use a high-risk processor like if you're doing gambling or hookers or paraphernalia. Like, no, for real.
How many have you how many have you gone through?
I've been kicked off at 3, and I've been flat out denied by like 13, where they're like, we're not going to waste anybody's time. Because I don't even try to lie with them anymore. I just say, hey, look, this is what I'm selling. Are you going to do it? And they're like, hang on, let me see. No, okay. So, you know.
Yeah.
I know, Jay, you had a question, then we're going to go to you next. Then.
What's up, everybody? I'm JC Rocker, production assistant of K100 Radio, and definitely, I'm definitely feeling all the people, what y'all saying and all that. And yo, you were talking about how can we get rid of the stigma. Here's the thing: I'm a non-smoker, but I know a lot of people on cannabis and all that. And being in the music industry, and you around those people, you're gonna smell like it. So I definitely feel that. But what y'all talked about is education, because going through school, they talk about marijuana is bad and this, that, and the third. But as you grow up and you get your own mind, yeah, exactly. Because and you hear like a lot of people on drugs and then versus a lot of people on marijuana, and I'm just like, if marijuana is bad and it can do all these negative things, then by rights, Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg should be dead, shouldn't they? Exactly. So, like I said, even though I'm not a part of it, but I do support it because I'm like, I never heard nobody overdose on marijuana. I heard somebody do stupid things, but when you're a human being, you're bound to do stupid things and flawed. But to answer your question, it's all about education. It's also about understanding. One of the things that makes me, sorry, I can't find the words right now, but basically I understand, and like you said, there are people that are professionals and very compassionate about what other people are doing, and if it's helping people heal, then hey, I'm all for it. So go green.
Go green.
What's your name? State your name. Hello, how y'all doing? My name is Joseph. I'm here with my girlfriend, Kim. She's kind of shy. Activists, supporters, and just a question. Do you feel that we've been to Denver, so we kind of see how they do over there, and we picked up some of the articles, things like that, and we saw what they've done with the money that they made, since that. And I guess, do you think Georgia will have a hard time taking like some stats to say like, hey, with this money we can reduce this amount of homelessness, we can put these people in homes, we can put this money in schools and things like that. So because that's what we saw, that's what they're doing in Colorado. But they're taking that money and they're flipping it back to the community. So I just want to see, do you think Georgia can get that way sooner than later?
Let's hope sooner than later. Anybody want to chime in?
I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist. And from what I've seen from the state of Georgia, taking Medicaid from the state of the schools here, I don't think that the lawmakers that we've had care enough to say, okay, we can take this money and use it for this. Because, I'm just going to speak freely. How many niggas they locking up off of this? And how much money are they getting from that? So when they even it out, they don't really care about the schools. The person who designed the schools in Georgia designed the prisons in Georgia. That's why they look just alike. They're preparing our children for, it's not a school to prison pipeline in some of our places here. It is just school is prison. There's no pipeline. So it's up to us to get to our lawmakers and to become the lawmakers. I'll run for office, get some people in office who care about the people and who don't care about, when I went to Washington to speak to one of our constituents here in the state of Georgia, what they told me was, well, a lot of my constituents are Christians and they're not going to go for it. However, I do believe that marijuana should be decriminalized. No, they have to hear the rest of their constituents because everybody, even Christians for cannabis, everybody's not against it. So we have to be that voice and we have to say where we want the money to go because this is our money. And we have to also put ourselves in a business realm where we have a voice. If you don't own anything, if you are renting, if you don't have a voice in Congress or with your state representatives, nobody's listening to you. So get a voice.
That's true. I can definitely agree with what you're saying. I don't even feel that they do enough with even providing us with the resources because I didn't even know about NORML being in Georgia or Georgia Cares or anything like that. And most of the people that I know down in Mechanicsville or anything like that, they don't know even this is happening right now outside of me letting them know, like this is,
I just wanted to say, watch, if you guys haven't seen this documentary called The Union, watch The Union. It is very informative. It talks about the history. It shows the birth of the propaganda and what they're doing to shed it, and it cancels out a lot of stigmas that have been placed on our culture. So it's called The Union, and it's a documentary about cannabis.
Mehka, can I ask a question?
I tell you, slide in one. I got one for you. Gonna be right behind you. Take go ahead, and we gotta speed this up.
I'll be really, really quick. I'm Ted Metz. I am with Peachtree NORML, and I do a lot of stuff at the Capitol. And I'll be down there with Daniel and some of the other people this legislative season coming up. What I do want to say is there another documentary is called The 13th.
Oh, yes.
And that's one everybody needs to see also. We'll be down at the Capitol. I do represent Peachtree NORML. If you've never heard of us, peachtreenormal.org. I just wanted to give that plug really quick. And really quickly, my point is going to be that it takes about 50 years for social attitudes to change to where it reaches the legislature. We're coming up on the 50 years because it's been like late 60s. We're coming up on 50 years of cannabis, activism. So that's coming up really quick. And the other point is that when 10% of the population has a common belief, the other 90% of the population very quickly adopts. We're about 8% acceptance totally for marijuana and marijuana legalization totally, even for recreational. So there's going to be a convergence in the next 2 or 3 years. So if you're going to do anything with hemp or cannabis, now is the time to start talking to other people, getting them on board. And that's all I got to say about that.
Hold on, Coach, I see, but I really got to do one last question. We're moving on time. Go ahead. I get you.
Okay, last one. Sharice Nicole, WRG, I Radio.
Hey.
For everything that's going on, we need to have this conversation. As well, I want to concur to the medicinal dinner that Sister D does. I have experienced it. It is the best. Get her information for sure. As well, I want to ask this question. I don't want to step on these toes. I see that you have tobacco sponsors. But I have to say that I have a brother who recently just passed from lung cancer. The Rastas use, everybody uses tobacco to double with the cannabis. And so the Rastas, they use this deep one called, Fanta. You know what I'm saying? That joke, boy, you hit your chest like, whoa, what is this? Tobacco is an addiction. It is not a healthy one. It's a very dangerous one. So talk about that dangerous doubling everyone does with the cannabis and abuse it, and mix it with it, it creates a different kind of addiction.
You want to chime in first?
I know a lot of people like to cut it down because they say it kind of stretches it out. They don't want to be that intensified. Well, I would suggest for them to research on the different strands because there are so many strands out there. You just have to educate yourself and not just call someone to say, I need a 3.5 or something like that. So you have to know what you're getting. If you know you can't stand something that is 2.2 in the upper 20%, look for something that's like 14 to 17 or something like that. but you have to do the research. There are tons of apps. Leafly is a great app. You can have a lot of strains, and there's a lot of, just do the research. I would suggest for anyone who uses tobacco as a cutting mechanism.
That's a great point. All right, so we're actually at a crunch for time right now. I do have to close out everything. I want to first thank Bre, thank Daniel, thank Gindi, and thank Ebony for coming out and sharing their time with everybody. I definitely want to thank all y'all for coming by. If you are taking pictures, if you are using social media, use the hashtag #CashColorCannabis or Always True. Also, make sure that you network and get a chance to speak to some people. There's a great man back there, my man Coach. I know I didn't get a chance to give you your 3 minutes, but you have more time to spend with him in 3 minutes. Talk to him about the Green Rush team and how all the things that you're trying to do as well. I'd like to thank everybody out here, Omen Agency. Thank you for coming out tonight, and look forward to our next one in 2017. Definitely network, definitely speak to these people. This industry is coming, and we will make some changes in Georgia.
Amen.
I'm working with Daniel and Cherrell.
All right, hi.